So, the news is out. UTA has chosen to replace its Blue Line fleet with new, low-floor light rail vehicles built, not by Siemens, who have built light rail vehicles for a majority of modern light rail systems across the US, but by Stadler. Stadler, a well-established Swiss rail vehicle manufacturer, is a newcomer to the North American light rail market, and this announcement for new vehicles for Salt Lake City comes with an expansion for their North American factory, also located in Salt Lake City. Funny how that works. The model of train destined for UTA is the Stadler Citylink, which has been used in a few countries around the world already, as its tram train design makes it very flexible for multiple types of operations. This will be the first time it is used in the United States. The length of the cars is yet to be determined, as the Citylink comes in several sizes. There is an ongoing discussion about using longer cars, potentially even double-long units, to reduce the amount of wasted space currently occupied by coupling mechanisms and empty operating cabs, as well as reducing the operational complexity of coupling up to 4 vehicles together. But it looks like this discussion is still ongoing, as the published contract documentation refers to multiple sizes. The Stadler Citylink vehicle is classified as a tram train, which means they are designed in equal parts for tram service and train service. Obviously, trams are a type of train, but they are extremely optimized for low-speed, short-stop, and short-distance service patterns that are highly integrated into the local urban environment. Conventional train service runs in its own right-of-way and gets priority wherever it goes, allowing high speeds, faster travel times, and long stop spacing. You'll notice that all of this footage features UTA vehicles operating as both trams and as trains. The UTA Trax network is a classic example of a tram-train system, which uses vehicles capable of both types of operation. Such systems take commuters directly from the suburbs and into the downtown core without the need to transfer from one vehicle type to another. This sort of hybrid system is very popular in North America and always has been. Interurban lines from early last century operated on the same philosophy. Salt Lake City was home to 2 such lines, which ran at high speeds between communities, but then, instead of going past cities at high speeds, they slowed down and traveled into the cities, stopping directly in the streets of the town's center. At their maximum extent, these lines stretched out over 50 miles north and south of the city, and took multiple hours to go from end to end. Some tram trains still operate this way in Europe. In fact, the Stadler Citylink has an option for a restroom at one end of the car for longer travel times, or the option to have a diesel engine and fuel tanks mounted on the roof of the car for off-wire operations. UTA didn't opt to include either of those features on their new Blue Line trains, but it is possible that future uses of the Stadler Citylink could make good use of them right here in Salt Lake City. For example, UTA owns the rail right-of-way extending from the end of the Blue Line in Draper up around the point of the mountain, past the Lehigh Tech area, and onto American Fork, Pleasant Grove, and eventually Orem Central Station. It is no secret that a line going at least as far as the Adobe building in Lehigh has been a long-term goal, despite whatever development is happening now at the point. After all, the bridges, one of the most expensive pieces of infrastructure on such a project, are already in place for the entire 9 miles down to Adobe. At the same time, however, 9 miles is a significant distance to build a double-track electrified light rail line, even if the right-of-way and bridges are already there. If the tracks were extended all the way to Pleasant Grove, you'd end up with a 19-mile extension, which would double the length of the current Blue Line and make it the 3rd longest light rail line in the world. In the past, these costs have prevented the extension from gaining traction, and those same costs are currently sending UDOT looking for alternative alignments, or even alternative modes, for connecting to the point. But with the Citylink able to run on-wire and also off-wire, either through diesel engines or potentially even hydrogen or battery power, thanks to Stadler's famous modularity, it should be possible to extend this line in phases as funding becomes available. Perhaps just a single track at first, with a transfer at Draper Town Center Station. Then, after ridership proves itself, sidings can be added for increased frequency, then electric lines for faster speeds and to eliminate the transfer. Even better, each of these improvements can be accompanied by an additional extension further south into Utah County, first to Old Lehigh, then to American Fork, and then Pleasant Grove, and so on. Rather than happening in long-anticipated bursts of activity like the Frontlines 2015 project, extensions can happen slowly, incrementally, and consistently, so that funding no longer comes as feast or famine, but as a consistent, dependable, perhaps even annual allocation. And it isn't just the blue line that could follow that pattern either. There have been talks for years about extending the red line further south, or constructing an entirely new line north from Salt Lake City, through the unpopulated areas around the quarries and refineries, and into South Davis County. A west side, north-south line along the former Rio Grande Garfield branch has also been discussed, but without a vehicle that has the Citylinks flexibility, there hasn't really been a good way to even approach that problem. Now there is. But I'm thinking even bigger. When we originally pitched the Rio Grande plan, we included 2 tracks for a line between Park City, Salt Lake City, and Tooele, running east-west along the I-80 corridor. The idea was quietly excluded from the Kimley-Horn screening analysis, as the Union Pacific Railroad requested more space than the 2 tracks, shared with Amtrak, that I had originally assumed they would need. The screening analysis gives Union Pacific space for 3 tracks, and gives Amtrak its own track. With more Amtrak service coming to the state, both officially and aspirationally, I support the idea of Amtrak having their own track, not just through downtown, but also through the Roper and the North Salt Lake yards, which would cut out many potential conflict points with freight service and all the associated delays. However, giving more space to intercity trains means that our proposed east-west transit line would have no space to stop in the Rio Grande train hall. A new place is needed, and to that, I humbly suggest that we use the tracks platforms that we already have. Imagine a Stadler Citylink, specially branded for the longer service and equipped with amenities for a longer ride, such as comfier seats, drinking water, and a restroom. Now imagine this train departing from Main Street. Both Park City and Tooele are around 30 miles from downtown, which is a shorter distance than either the north or south frontrunner lines. Also, neither Park City nor Tooele are large enough to really warrant commuter rail infrastructure, especially for regular, all-day service. The Stadler Citylink is a much more appropriately sized vehicle for this type of route, and when there are major events like film festivals, or winter or motorsports, then multiple vehicles can be coupled together with minimal extra operating costs. Light rail vehicles can handle more complicated routes, including grades. I-80 over Parley Summit requires road vehicles to climb a 6% grade, which is impossibly steep for most mainline rail vehicles. Light rail, however, already climbs grades of up to 7%, including 2 sections here in Salt Lake City, those being the climb up to the University of Utah and the North Temple Bridge. The routing into Tooele and Park City has always been a major question, since the existing tracks aren't especially close to the core of Tooele, and Park City completely built over their rail right-of-way after the tracks were removed. With tram trains, this is no longer a problem, since tighter curves, steeper grades, and potentially even street-running sections all become ways to fit rail transit into the spaces where there are currently no openings. Travel times would admittedly be a little slower with the street-running sections than without, but not significantly slower. In sections with exclusive right-of-way, the Citylinks can travel at up to 70 miles per hour, or so I am told, which is only 9 miles per hour slower than the current frontrunner top speed. The current Bombardier cars that the Citylinks will replace have a top operating speed of only 55 miles per hour. This 15 mile per hour boost will be significant enough that the track's timetable, already one of the fastest in North America, will soon get even faster. With high speeds and few places to stop in between, it isn't unreasonable to expect that a trip to either Tooele or Park City would take less than an hour to complete. I will leave to you to imagine the possibilities of getting from downtown to either the ski slopes or the lakeshore in less than an hour by rail. All of this is to say that the old paradigms are changing. The previous limits on what trains and trams could or could not do are being rewritten by new technologies and innovations. Ideas such as trams that travel at freeway speeds, or that extend as far out as the old interurbans used to do, used to be daydreams and fantasy. But that is no longer the case. With increasing opportunity, we need to increase our ambitions. There are many good and exciting public transit projects out there, including the Rio Grande Plan, but none of them will happen unless they have strong public support behind them. If you feel strongly about increasing public transit in our area, we at Via Rio Grande would love to have you volunteer with us. Follow the link tree in the description below to connect. I'm Christian Lenhart. Thank you for watching. seen this before.